Welcome to the Knicks Film School Postgame Show, presented by BetUS. With the game going the way it was down the stretch, I grabbed in anticipation because I had to hurry up here to where I'm doing the postgame from. I'm out at my in-laws' house at the east end of Long Island. I grabbed a one, please, in case they won. And thankful that they had, just in the event that they lost, some rubbing alcohol. And I let me be the first to tell you, I'm really happy that I don't have to unscrew this one. Getting too old for this shit. Getting too old for this shit. But as they say, a win is a win. Right? A win is a win. It's all positives. It's funny because we are actually almost 2 years to the day. Almost 2 years from the day, because it was December 3rd. And what is it today? November 29th. So yeah, 2 years and about 4 days. I guess a little bit less than 2 years. From a game that I will never forget. The game itself was forgettable, but in terms of a post game that I will never forget, which was the Knicks loss to Dallas, where they were up by 15 in the first half, and then they let go of the rope as if they forgot the rope was even there. And I came on here that day, and among other things, said that I figured Tom Thibodeau had probably outlived his usefulness here with the Knicks, and that this thing was broken. And the front office should all be, ashamed of themselves. And the thing was done. Put some dirt on it. And I remember that. I remember exactly how I was feeling that day. It was easily the most apoplectic I had felt. Not as a Knicks fan, but certainly as a Knicks fan in the Leon Rose era. And all they did after that game was win 8 games in a row, completely turn around not only their season, but really the course of this franchise. And it's really been, with a couple of hiccups here and there, they didn't exactly get off to the best of starts last season. It has really been mostly sunshine and rainbows since that day. And it's fitting that if they lost this game to the Hornets, and how many there are, I don't know, half a dozen plays that if they go the other direction, Cody Martin had a great look from the corner late. The kid, Sal, the rookie they have, the tall doofy rookie they have, pretty good look, almost inexcusably good on that play with the inbounds play with, I think it was 11 seconds left or 8 seconds left, whatever it was. And we'll go through some of the Knicks shots because, I'm going to be positive. I'm just putting it out front. I know there are probably a lot of people, even with the win, that are upset today, as they should be. If you're a Knicks fan and you're feeling hunky dory right now, then I would examine that a little bit. So I'm going to honor that, but I'm just saying, on the whole, I'm going to try to be positive, not only because they did make some big plays, and we're going to go through the big plays and who made those big plays, and more importantly, perhaps who did not make those big plays because they were not in the game late. We'll go through all of that. But and the other reason I'm going to be positive is because, and the way I phrased it to Andrew earlier today, we were going back and forth about how disastrous of a loss this would be. And I'm like, well, 5th game of an 11-day road trip, 12 o'clock start, day after Thanksgiving, veteran team versus a young, scrappy team with a bunch of guys who probably went out there today and, played this game like it was their NBA Finals. So, there are levels to Armageddon, and I was like, it would be like a 9.5 out of 10 instead of a 13 out of 10, and we agreed to split the difference, and that it would be like an 11 or 11.5 had they lost this game. So, but they won the game. and they won the game, and they dug down deep. And even against that team, because look, every coach has said it, these are all NBA players. Tibbs has said it a lot of times. These are all NBA players. And there are some guys that, like, is this an April tanking team that we saw today in Charlotte? No, it's a November, December tanking team, meaning it's like a bunch of like 7th, 8th, 9th men. And it's funny, the one exception to that, Brandon Miller had himself a terrible game. So it's not like you're playing a G League team out there. So like, I'm going to give him credit for the win, and I'm going to be mostly positive, but there are issues here. There are real issues. I think the biggest challenge right now for me is trying to, and you could probably have said, I could have said the same thing. I probably did say some version of this after a whole lot of games this season, and a lot of Knicks fans could, is trying to divorce the issues from, do they fall under the umbrella of endemic serious problems that potentially may not go away, or how many of those issues can we still put under the umbrella of the same thing that we've been saying for whatever it's been now, a month and a half, or a month and 6 weeks, whatever how long the series has been. It's a new team, getting used to each other, getting accustomed, all that sort of stuff. And I think there's some stuff that falls into category A, and I think there's some stuff that falls into category B. Stuff like noon tip off, 10. It's all I was tracking over the first quarter of this game is how like here, 2 turnovers, 2 24-second violations right out the bat, then 2 more, 5 turnovers in 7 minutes, 6 and 8 minutes and 30 seconds, 7 turnovers in 10 minutes and 30 seconds, 8 turnovers over the first 10 minutes. I just kept adding on turnover. Here's the time. And they ended up with however many turnovers they ended up with. I think it was 21. That sort of thing, given circumstance and place and time and all that, which is really the biggest reason I think the Hornets were able to stay in this game. That and probably some tired legs and a lower 3-point percentage than you'd expect from a team with the Knicks level of skill, because, again, 5th game of a 5-game road trip, they ended up shooting 37.5% from 3, so you can't even say that. But really, the turnovers, you want to kind of write that off as a combination of the circumstance of this game, and then like the team still first 20 games together. That's fine. Even some of the defense stuff that we saw throughout the game where the Hornets got, we're again, it's the theme of the season, right? On defense, you don't feel us. You don't feel the Knicks. But yet again, and this is the first time I'm going to try to be glass half full here. When push came to shove, and it was go time, the defense, for the most part, wasn't perfect, because it rarely is. For the most part, and again, take it with several grains of salt because of who the opponent was. For the most part, when push came to shove and you needed to dial up, you dialed it up. And you made plays on defense when you needed to make the plays on defense. So, even that, I'm gonna like not brush off, but I'm gonna be like, okay, it's fine. I think about now, the one thing we can't just continue to bury under or dust under the rug is whatever. Like, I don't know where the alien is, or the what was the Monstars, right? Yeah, I don't know which Monstar it was that on the day that he switched sides of the river took Mikal Bridges' powers and inserted them into, I don't know, I guess RJ Barrett is as good a candidate as any. Like, what NBA player is going out there having by far a better season than you can't even say RJ, because RJ had a pretty good end of the season last year. So it's not even like RJ. Where's the NBA player who is like, wow, this guy's been in the league for a lot of years and never done anything like this? Whoever that player is walking around with Mikal Bridges' skill set, because he looks like, remember how Patrick Ewing, what did they have? They had Patrick Ewing in the hospital gown, right? In the ER, bringing him in. But Patrick Ewing forgot how to play basketball. What the hell happened? See if I can remember who all of them were. It was Ewing, Sean Bradley, right? There was a Sean Bradley thing there. Larry Johnson, Muggsy Bogues, and Charles Barkley. Somebody help me out. Did I get those 5 right? All right. Mark is telling me I got those. That was off the dome. I promise. And that is not, I'm not like Andrew. That's not like one of my all-time favorite movies. It's probably been about, I don't know, 15, 20 years since I've seen it. Well, I don't know who it is, but they should be very thankful. And us Knicks fans, all we have to do is sit here and just kind of hope that, I guess this, Michael Jordan or LeBron James already made his sequel. Who's the next American superstar? Because, it's, Hollywood-funded movie probably has to be an American, although at this point I really wouldn't care. Who's the next NBA superstar that could star in a Space Jam movie and go get the powers back? Because that guy needs to get a hop to it. Anthony Edwards. I don't really care who it is. Someone's got to do it because that guy forgot how to play basketball. And I made the receipt analogy after the last game, and I think it's like, yeah, we can talk about the 6 first-round picks all we want. You're not getting them back. What's done is done. And the one, and this is both the best thing I could say about the trade and also the most damning indictment of the trade, irrespective of how Mikal Bridges is playing, which is this. Usually when you give up 6 first-round picks, including all the unprotected picks and everything, future unprotected swap, for a player in the NBA, if that player has the level of drop-off that Mikal Bridges has had, you would be completely fucked as an organization because the only types of players you give up those trade packages for are the sorts of players where if they have a severe drop-off from their level of play or they get injured or just whatever the case may be, you're screwed because they're that important because those are the only players you give up those trade packages for. The Knicks' saving grace is that there's an argument that even if Mikal Bridges was playing like he normally plays, he would still be the 4th best player on the Knicks, given how obviously Jalen Brunson, Karl-Anthony Towns, and given how OG Anunoby has played thus far. I know OG did not have his best day on offense today, but go look at Brandon Miller's stat line, and everybody should tip their freaking cap to OG Anunoby. That's the best thing you can say about OG, by the way, which is that even when his offensive game is not there, he does not let it impact his defensive performance, as I slide over here so the sun doesn't get completely in my face. So, yeah, that's the best thing you could say about the trade right now. And it's also the worst thing you could say about the trade. But, in the sense that, like, if, I'm going to end on a positive note, I promise. If this, just imagine a world where this is what Mikal Bridges was forever and ever, like, the opportunity cost of giving those picks away would be awful. That would be the thing that would lose sleep. But it's not like, the Knicks are definitely going to be picking in the lottery because they're still probably going to be a really good team. And oh, by the way, and now I'm really going to go back towards the positive. The reason you can be sure they're still going to be a pretty good team is because they have a guy like Deuce McBride who could step in and fill in for Mikal Bridges like you did. Like, hey, man, what that guy's out there doing, what Deuce McBride's out there doing. And I know he made a bad decision on the corner 3 that actually went in. Benji pointed it out on Twitter. You don't leave the strong side corner like that. That was a bad error by Deuce. But, like, yeah, he'll make an occasional mistake. And obviously the reason why you trade for a Bridges, even though you have a McBride, is because Deuce is just always going to be limited against certain matchups because of his size. He's just whatever he is what he is. He's 6'1", 6'2" guard, whatever. But, like, other than that, you could throw Deuce McBride in and feel like you're not really missing a beat. And thank God they had him because they don't win this game today without Deuce McBride. I mean, I don't know which play that I want to point to was the biggest play down the stretch. If we want to cue up the autograph logo, shout out to Autograph. And thanks to everybody who joined me on the Autograph app, which you just go download at your app store, use code KFS, and get rewarded for your fandom. Thanks to everybody who joined me pregame and during halftime for the chat in the New York Knicks chat app. I think I'm going to give the play of the game. It probably has to be the Deuce steal and the dunk because that was the first time. I'm pretty sure that was the first time all game where they had a lead of at least 3 points. And so you felt like you had a little bit of breathing room there. And more than that, it was just symbolic of what has been missing so often from the defense this year, and how when they get that, when they find that part, which I thought they found, I really did think they found it relatively a lot, relative to how much they usually find it in the second half of this game. And it was because they found that gear, and especially found that gear down the stretch. That's why they won, in addition to some other big shots. But yeah, so that's going to be my Autograph signature moment of the game. Again, shout out Autograph. Go download the app. Use code KFS. Appreciate you guys. At the end of the day, though, and again, told you I was going to be mostly positive here. Whatever is going on with the Knicks collectively as a group right now, and I'm going to put the Bridges stuff to the side for a minute because, one, I don't know what else to say about it, and two, I maintain, and I thought Jared Dubin sent out a good what are we calling him again? Skeet. How could I forget? A good skeet earlier, where he's like, we have roughly 6 years of evidence that Mikal Bridges is a really, really good NBA player, and we now have, 19 games of evidence that he's not. I'm going to go with the bigger sample size. I think he's going to figure it out. The question of, like, how low does it go? How bad does he get? Do his depths of play start to infect, like, do they take its toll in other ways other than, like, this is a guy who just got benched down the stretch of the game? We don't know the answers to those questions. Do I think somehow, some way, he's still going to come out of it? Yeah. Is it harder and harder to sit here and say that with confidence after each performance that looks like the performance that we just saw? Abso-freaking-lutely. You could argue that his two worst performances of the season were these two last games against the Mavs and the Hornets. But so I'm putting the Bridges stuff aside because I don't know what else to say about it. I'm sure we're going to talk about it a lot in the Super Chats. But on the positive note, I think there's still a lot of there's a ton of good stuff going on here. And that starts with Jalen Brunson. And the difference between the Knicks and so many other NBA teams is they have Jalen Brunson on their roster, and those teams do not. And Jalen Brunson, of course, leads them down the stretch, making big shot after big shot. His midi that gave them the lead was massive, 86-85. He had a finish that extended the run to a 14-3-1. That was huge. He had another floater that made it 92-88 after I'm pretty sure the Hornets had scored. That was massive. And then, of course, he draws the foul that I have to think he knew he was going to draw with an over-aggressive young defender that got him 3 free throws. Missed one of those, missed 2 free throws overall in the fourth quarter, but he nailed the 2 that really counted. So, Jalen Brunson, tip of the cap to you. And if it wasn't for all those big buckets and makes by Brunson down the stretch, the first guy that I'd be talking about in this postgame was Josh Hart, in a positive way. The first guy I'd be talking about in this postgame would be Josh Hart, because, again, when the Knicks are dead and they need a spark, they need some energy, they need someone to pull them by the scruff of their neck and say, get your heads out of your asses, guys. So often it's Josh Hart. And I know Josh Hart wasn't perfect in this game because Josh Hart is never perfect in any game. But this was a Josh Hart game through and through. And it is fitting that in a game that the Knicks, it kind of felt like they had to have, your two leaders were the two guys that stepped up and came up the biggest, in Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart. And the fact that those two guys are there, and I think, again, another not great Towns game, and this was probably the worst Towns game in terms of the silly foul, right? In terms of the, he maybe got his head a little bit with those offensive fouls. So, like, but again, those have not come at the sort of frequency that I maybe half expected. They've been infrequent, and overall, he's been really, really good. So I'm not going to kill Towns today. And by the way, you could argue that the biggest shot of this game wasn't the Deuce steal and dunk. It wasn't the Brunson midi to give them the lead. It wasn't any of the other Brunson shots. It wasn't, but that the biggest shot of the game was Cat from the corner after the Miller 3 put the Hornets back up by 4 after the Knicks had cut it to 1. That was a massive shot by Brandon Miller, and Towns calmly sunk that 3 from the corner. Absolutely a massive shot by Towns. And then, by the way, a few minutes later, makes the pass of the game to Josh Hart, cutting Josh Hart under the basket to finish. So again, was it a great game from Towns? No. Did he come up with some big plays and some big defensive plays, by the way, late? Absolutely. So you're feeling great about Brunson. You're feeling great about Hart. You're feeling really good about Towns. OG Anunoby, we talked to him. Again, maybe a little bit of a shooting regression here, but you love what OG has brought you. And then you bench. Your bench. You love Deuce. Campaign, another shot of the game contender. That deep three to make it 82-81. I mean, and that was and the vibes at that moment, when Payne hit that deep three were like, ooh, not good. And that guy has ice water in his veins, sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. He bricked the next shot. But, like, that three there was so big. So you're feeling good about that. You're feeling good about the progress Sims has made. And then you got guys coming back from injury. So for as much as we can all sit here and be frustrated about 11 and 8 and these endemic issues and, like, they really got to figure it out, I wonder how much of it really just comes down to Bridges and how – for some reason, this starting five is just, it's not coming together. And I think your question now has to be how much of that in particular is Bridges. And how much, because they sure do seem to play pretty well when he is not in there.